This show is a production of the Best in Tabletop Network. Be your best in every aspect of your game. Find us wherever you find your podcasts, or check us out on YouTube for more Bat Reps podcasts and shows. If you like what we're doing, you can join our Discord through the Best in Tabletop Patreon group or our YouTube members only area, where you'll get access to our entire library of content. Thank you for listening. Welcome to Best in Faction,
a podcast about Warhammer 40k
competitively. I'm Colin.
I'm Mitch.
And I'm Chuck. I took the competitively out. I don't think we get that right now.
I think that's fair.
Harsh.
I judge competitively.
We just won. What did we have? We got third at Las Vegas Team Tournament like just a month ago.
That feels like so
what have you done for me
ago,
lately?
Yeah, that's a month. There were midterms, man. That feels like a decade ago.
If somebody was interested in that, in fact, we brought a cameraman with us to a Las Vegas Team Tournament. And the idea was to start doing tournament coverage in a different way than other people do it. So I wanted to focus on the experience of being at the tournament and the pairings and how it all went, rather than as much about individual games. We have made that thing. Really, Chris made that thing, so holler to Chris. And it's up. Both parts are on YouTube. You can go watch it. I think it's not a big time commitment. I think the first one's 30 minutes and the second one's slightly shorter. But what we really like to hear from you is, did you enjoy it? What did you like? What did you not like? If you could leave comments, that'd be really great. This is not the only time we will cover a tournament in this manner. The team that I took is very excited to try to do 2 team tournaments a year. I don't know if that'll happen, because currently there is no Las Vegas Team Tournament for next year. So maybe that doesn't happen. But that's the plan, and we want to start covering it more and more. We think that as a network, we're pretty pro team tournament. And so anything we can do to convince people that team tournaments are the best and they should go, we're going to do, because it is the most fun and the most balanced 40K you can play. So that's what's going on there. Did you watch it, Chuck? Have you watched the videos yet?
I haven't watched it yet.
Okay, fair enough.
Let's see. I watched This Week in 40k. That's about all I got in this week. So.
Okay. Well, that's a good show. I find the hosts are very likable.
One of them.
I'm fine with that. Next Tuesday, we actually don't have a Billy and instead have a Chuck.
Oh. There'll be no likable hosts then.
Well, we have to have one likable host.
Tune in. It'll be great.
We have to have one likable host at a time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be a very poorly watched live episode, because the other thing that happened this morning is all of the videos reading the Guard Codex you have gone live.
Yeah, we've chosen some pretty stiff competition.
Yeah. Which is fine.
No one's going to care about this.
Which is fine.
Later.
Yeah, later they'll listen to this. And the name of this episode is episode 115, which is a stupid number. That's not a real number. Episode 115, Drive Me Closer, which of course is a reference to the best 40K meme, in my opinion. Which is the Commissar in the top of the rust with his chainsword out. Drive me closer, I want to hit him with my sword. I have a shirt that says that. I will be wearing it at the first time I play Guard, as is appropriate. I do have one more thing to shill before we go in. I do want to remind you all that you can buy incredibly comfortable shirts from us. If you go to StreamYard.com, excuse me, that's not right even a little bit. I read the URL off of the screen instead of telling you what you needed to know. bestintabletop.com/store. They're not particularly expensive. They are Bella Canvas shirts, which are incredibly comfortable. My first 2 arrived. Sadly, they were both dirty today. So when I went to find one, I was like, oh, I can't wear either of these. So I've got my team jersey on instead. But the shirts are wonderful. The artwork is good. It doesn't dampen. It doesn't fade in the wash from what I've seen so far. Very, very comfortable and a fantastic way to support the network. As I said on This Week in 40K, we're a network that is growing. The network does not cover its costs. So we're doing things like adding value to the subscriber areas, making new merchandise. We're doing stuff to try to basically encourage you to support us so that we can do more great content. If you enjoy us and you're financially doing okay, please find a way to kick us a few dollars. We'd really appreciate it. So that is that. Now let's do the part we normally do first. Mitch, how's it going?
Oh man, I'm doing okay. It's good to be on the weekend. It's good to just be chilling and talking about 40K. I have not had any time to do anything 40K related. I am excited to talk about Guard.
Yes.
So everything I want to say is going to be covered later. So
Yes.
we can kind of just wait on me.
I'm actually concerned that if this episode will go all the way until Sunday when Mitch starts talking about Guard. That's a real concern that I have.
No, I'm not going to go that deep right now. I don't have my notes.
Okay. All right. We're going to aim for 90 minutes. We'll see how that goes. Chuck, how are things going with you?
Well, it's kind of weird. So I had this like run of like 6 tournaments in a row,
Mm-hmm.
and then none, and only like working really hard. I don't like that. So I guess I'm doing fine, but I'm really looking forward to the next couple of weeks being done and then getting back to like 40K all the time.
Yeah, for sure. I am also I took a weekend off from 40K, which felt weird. But now I have a Guard. I'm gonna hopefully have Guard League soon. And I'm very excited to play some Guard. So we're gonna have to make a bit rep in the next few days if I can of me playing Guard, because for those that don't know, I own a large Guard army. I haven't played it a lot because I didn't think that the rules held up over time. Certainly,
They
didn't hold up. It's not, and I want to be clear on this because I think you're going to agree with me, which doesn't always happen. I don't think that it's not that they didn't hold up competitively. They didn't, but that's not what my issue is. The book didn't hold up in interesting level. Like all the books after it that I played, Nids, Gene Stealer Cult, Crafter Eldar, Harlequins, Drukhari, all of those books are just more interesting than the Guard Codex because it was one of the first books and it was in 8th edition even, and it just doesn't have as robust and configurable of a rule set, the old book.
It also just had pathetic AP, pathetic damage. The combat just aged like milk over time.
Three stratagems.
I mean, there were just so many things. The best thing in the book was the Scion supplement. Like that's what people were actually playing, which was something entirely separate. So yeah, not great.
And the only things that remained good the whole time through were like mana cores. Like there were almost no data sheets that we just never stopped seeing. Tank commanders and mana cores.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say those two for sure. Mana cores have fallen off a lot more. Again, it's that lack of AP is a real problem. Guard also, their codex it's not designed to run on so few CP. So the CP change really
oh, good catch.
They wanted Guard, you want to take 2 or 3 detachments because I want my Scion's pure detachment. I want this detachment. But the CP just totally took the gas out of that army for being like, oh, I'm going to reserve these tanks. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. They had flexibility before, but that's just gone now. So the one cool thing that they had, and it has continued through, thank goodness, in the new codex is orders. Yep. Orders were always cool. They always worked. They were always a fun mechanic that made sense in how they work.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Other than guardsmen moving faster than any other unit in the game.
Outrunning Eldar.
Not just Eldar, but like Eldar on jet bikes. They're like, no. Like you have to advance to keep up.
Yeah. I want to make a slight tangent. There's this picture behind Mitch for those that are watching it on the podcast. And there's a Chaos Dreadnought and then like some Space Wolf guy. And I feel like despite the fact that Mitch loves Space Wolves, I feel like that Space Wolf guy is screwed.
Well, there's also another guy over here with a plasma gun. And he's saying, hey, I really need you to take care of this guy.
Yeah, he's like, shoot that damage 2 gun at that dreadnought. It'll work out great.
That dreadnought that is in heroic intervention range.
That's just the Space Wolf has him where he wants him.
Okay.
No, those are both two space wolves that are like, hey, it might be a good idea to become a word bearer. That's what I think we got right here.
Definitely not.
Is that what that dreadnought is?
No
From
one,
Word Bearer?
no
Yeah.
one thinks it's a good idea to become a word bearer. Not even word bearers.
No, they're like, whoops.
Yeah.
Oh, damn it. Now I'm a word bearer.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a legion you fail into.
All right. So let me do just a little bit more lead into us talking about the Guard Codex. So first of all, we are all old in the terms of 40K, and we will be calling this the Guard Codex. That's the first thing I want to cover. I don't like saying Astra Militarum. I don't think that it is easy to say. I think it is a silly name. I will be calling it the Guard Codex. Second of all, we do not normally cover leaks. We do not normally review codexes. The reason we don't do that is because there's people that will literally read the book to you.
Mm-hmm.
We do bring something significant to this conversation. I have won multiple tournaments with 8th edition Guard. And I have nothing. I won a major with 8th edition Guard. I went 5-1 at SoCal Open with 8th edition Guard. I have succeeded with Guard, and I have nothing compared to what Mitch has done with Guard. Mitch has won Best in Faction, Imperial Astra Militarum. That one is actually called that. He has won many tournaments with the Castellan plus Guard. So Mitch and I are literally Guard junkies. We both played. I'm sure I played 100 games of Guard in 8th edition, including the 50 practice games of Guard I played with Chuck while we were learning 8th edition.
Yeah, 100. I think it's low. Maybe I'm just talking for myself here, but like I feel like for Guard, almost every single army I play in 8th edition included Guard, except for pure Space Wolf ones.
Yeah,
like
an interesting point, Mitch, is the day that we met, we played a Guard mirror.
Yep.
So Mitch and I met on Facebook through the team we were on, but we hadn't met in person. And I invited Mitch over to play. And we had this great game where Mitch didn't screen it correctly, which is not Mitch at all. And anyways, I remember that. Yeah. I blew up some tanks on the first turn with some scions dropping in, because on the first turn is what they did at that time.
Yep. Oh man, back in the day.
Yeah, like, oh hey, look, I dropped all this melted next to your tanks. What's that going to do?
Let's find out.
Yeah, right. So anyway, we're different people in this regard. And so what we'd like to do is not review the codex, because none of us have it. Not read the codex to you, because you can have the sultry tones of John Lennon at Art of War read you the codex if you'd like. What we're going to talk about is what we think, what we're excited about, what we think we're going to do first, what we think they missed out on. Like, we're just going to talk about our feelings, because we love this army. And I want to start.
What is this week crap? I'm going to talk about what I hate and what I'm very mad about.
I said Mitch and I was talking about Mitch and I specifically.
I am grumpy.
I want to circle back real quick to who I would like to have me read this codex. Read this codex to me. It's definitely the Falcon in a fireside, with
like
the smoking jacket
behind it.
Yeah, and just like he's trying to put me to sleep, and he's just telling me about how Yarick died, and I'm like, oh no, what happens next? Yeah, that's what I want.
Where Yarick?
So that brings me to my first point. Yarick died?
Yeah.
That's not acceptable to me.
It's really upsetting. What's more upsetting is that Angron, the pictures we had of Angron have his skull on Angron's belt. Like, it was there the whole time. They showed us. Like, if we had been paying attention, we could have seen the skull with the gaze on it. Like,
I think that this is unfortunate for two reasons. One is Yarick's lore is dope.
Yep.
Second of all, Yarick is one of the only not terrible models in the entire line. Like, part of the issue with Guard is how old and crappy the model line is. And in fact, when we did our community survey for Charity Hammer, by far the most people said that Guard needed the refresh and that Guard had the worst models. It was by far. So I actually like the Yarick model, and I am bummed that he is gone. I presume I will use him as a commissar, but
obviously,
yeah.
If you put a power fist on a commissary,
can you?
Mm-hmm.
Probably.
That's what they.
What I think the third really unfortunate thing for this is for Aragon. Like, he just killed.
Angron, yeah.
He just killed Gaz's favorite buddy. He's
Yep.
about to get the wad right out of him. That new codex is coming out, and they're going to hit the ground dead.
I really
I
thought
mean,
that Chuck said
we're coming
Aragorn, and
from-
I was like, why
Oh,
is
yeah,
the
me
one
too.
true king?
Oh, you don't know about Aragorn?
Yeah, that's why.
I think I did say it.
That's why I clarified. I'm like, no, Aragorn. Yeah, no.
Too much Lord of the Rings in the background over here.
No,
I wasn't able to make it through Rings of Power. I just thought it was the first few episodes were so boring.
The rest of them are great.
Are they? Okay, maybe I'll go
a power
back then. We're out of quality television, so maybe I'll go back and watch that then.
I think the other really disappointing thing about killing off Yarick in this way is going back to Gaz, is this is like one of the greatest rivalries in 40K. Period. They made a cartoon like thing about it where like Yarick is the thing that orcs scare Grots with. He's what you aspire to have trying to kill you. And to do such a cool thing with a character and have such a great rivalry and then, you know, kill him off screen to try and build up another big bad that's already, he's Angron. No one had any question that Angron was a badass. No one thought Demon Angron is more of a badass. Oh, he killed Yarick. Yeah, he's a real badass. It's like, no, you just like took all the wind out of like this really cool story sales for a head count.
Let's also be clear that the way the books have aged, basically any basic bitch chaos character can kill Yarick in combat. So killing Yarick is not actually, God forbid the auto wounding demon prince gets into Yarick. I mean, like,
kills him like 5 times.
Yeah. Okay, Yarick's dead. Great. I'm actually fine with Yarick dying if the next thing that happens is that Gaz dies.
He already died. He's fine.
Okay.
I am going to make a battle wagon called the SS Yarick. It will have a giant power claw for a death roller, and it will have a giant eye beam for its cannon. It's going to be
that's the Chuck equivalent of pouring some out for the homie. So I really appreciate it.
No, I love it. I love it.
Imperial Guard love to name their tanks after Primarchs,
right?
And we're going to name our tanks after Primarchs then.
Okay. All right.
The biggest, baddest you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. It is a real bummer. I am okay with it if we get a Mecha Yarick. I am okay with it if we get a Saint Yarick. I am okay with it if we get a Baneblade with Yarick's head attached somehow, or maybe the head isn't there and it's just a Baneblade on top of Yarick's body. And he's
what if he joins the Death faction in Age of Sigmar as like a lich?
I'm fine with that too.
Here's what I'll do for you, Mitch. How about a strat that gives you +1 to wound chaos for 1 CP?
No, that's so much
so
worse
mad
than it
about
was
Yarick
before.
dying.
I'm outraged. That's so much worse than it was before.
It's somewhat livable.
Unacceptable nerf to Vengeance of Cadia.
Oh, it's fine.
I'm not kidding. Vengeance of Cadia was like the stupidest stratagem in all of 8th edition. I wanted it gone.
It was this thing that like I was sort of afraid of, and then the super heavies got popular, and it's like, well, that's just ruining.
This Shadow Sword has 700 heavy bolter shots that are rerolling hits and wounds. Let's do it.
Yeah, it should be fine. What that cost in CP? Oh, just the one. I'm good.
So Vengeance of Cadia is only +1 to wound now, which who needs +1 to wound? That's terrible. So
good for 1 CP. I'd say it's still actually a pretty high value item.
I think you have to do it on Cadians now, though, right?
No.
Everybody wants vengeance.
I thought that I read 3 things this morning. I thought the Goodhammer article said that everybody couldn't do Vengeance of Cadia anymore.
No, not everyone can. You can't do super heavies and tanks, I believe. It's only regiment.
Okay.
So that's why the Karsakins are so great.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
That's not why.
I mean, part of it. it's the cherry on. It's the chaos saddening cherry on top.
Yeah, I am happy to see it reduced to a level where I don't have to legitimately think every time I make a chaos army, am I going to face a guard super heavy?
But spoiler alert, you are.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, you will.
Now it's not getting full rerolls for no reason.
Yeah,
no, it's just getting them from the Lord Solar.
That's fine.
All right, so let's start at the top of this book. First of all, I was very interested that they did away with subfactions.
Yep.
You simply do not pick which version of guard you're playing. And a lot of people have wondered, are we being telestrated is the wrong word. Are they foreshadowing the 10th
Telegraphing. You were
edition?
talking about
Telegraph. Thank you. Jeez, Mitch is such my friend. The question is, are they telegraphing 10th edition with this book? And having read reviews of this book, I think they are. This book has a very different approach than the other codexes, so I think they are. Mitch says no.
I think this is what I wanted. So the guard and orcs are similar in this fashion. The actual army is built out of a menagerie of their different tribes or groups, right? Like when Imperial Guards start an army, they like, okay, we'll pull from this one planet and we'll get started. But like people die and they grab whatever's nearby. You don't end up with armies that are just like all catechins. So this is actually bringing it into flavor range. I don't necessarily mean that makes me disagree with your opinion that this could be like a new direction. We're certainly close to 10th and we'll start seeing the ideas in there. But I wish the orc book had been done this way.
Yeah, I think
like
so
the fact that I don't mix my tribes means that I'm making something that just absolutely doesn't match fluff basically ever. Right. I'd have to lose the wah and stuff in order to do that. It's like this doesn't make any sense.
Right. Oh, sorry, Mitch, you were going to say.
Oh, I think that the Guard Codex is like Thomas S. Pumpkins. It's its own thing. It's not a representative of anything else. Okay. It's just so. I think that it's cool and unique and flavorful, and I think that that is what they've tried to do with a lot of codexes. We've seen that with Tyranids and GSC. Like not necessarily that they've completely succeeded, but they try to create different ways to have the sub factions interact, and they try to. And each codex that has come out this edition, they've tried really hard to capture the flavor of the army, I feel. Yep. And I feel like what Chuck said is really on point, that they wanted to take out all of this, like, oh, I'm a Catachan army, on this army. It's like, no. Like, all of these models are cool. You should be able to play with all of them because they get all fielded together in the lore. So let's, cram them together and like make that interesting and put the flavor in the units, not in like which subfaction you pick, which eventually just becomes pick the optimized one.
I'm sort of jealous of the players for hobby reasons too, right? Like you get to just pick up a unit and be like, okay, I'm going to paint this wholly different thing, but it's still going to go into my regular army.
I'm actually considering getting one of each of the different special old models, like one Mordian, one Vostroyan, so that my guard units all look different from each other when I'm playing with them.
Yeah, no,
because that's really appealing to me. One of my least favorite things about guard is I've got these 8 infantry squads that sometimes they stand near each other.
Yep.
And all the different ways we have to come up with to separate them.
These guys have yellow hats.
It was a funny thing. So when I went to the SoCal Open, I had 60 conscripts, and they would often interweave because of the way the army played. Yep. And so I painted right before leaving. I painted the helmets gray and white. And then I got there, and under the lights in the warehouse at SoCal Open, it's really like, for those that haven't been, it's really like a big aircraft hangar. And so the lights are very fluorescent and very far away. And so I couldn't tell the difference at the table between the two helmet colors. And I was just like, man, this sucks. So I think that I had a lore question. The craft worlds and the other factions like Craft World Eldar, in the lore, do the particular craft worlds always operate independently?
Yeah, for the most part. Like they could ally with each other stuff, but that's a unique story instead of like operating normal operation.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and Space Marines are another example. They don't really like. They will do mixed operations, but they don't like it. Like in the lore, they don't get along usually.
I was thinking this was a go forward decision, but maybe it's literally a lore decision. It could be.
I'm hoping so. It's a spot on. It's like a home run for a lore decision.
Yeah.
So hopefully it stays that way.
Yeah.
Maybe the next orc book, follows suit.
Yeah. Right.
That's about as big a praise as you're going to get out of Chuck for this book. Is him saying, "Hey, I'd really like one of my factions to look like it."
Yeah.
I think that's as high as we're going to get here.
Just that one piece. I don't want to shoot that hard with them.
So there's also no
cause problems in the
meta. Despite the fact that I own a huge collection of Valhallas, they don't exist.
How interesting.
So
there's whatever you want.
There's Catechins, Cadians, and
Deathcore,
which is so weird because I thought Deathcore were dead, like dead Deathcore dead. I don't know how. I just thought that they were gone. Like they've gotten so little attention over the last few years. I just figured
No,
But
that's
fine.
smart, though. I think they're one of the most popular ones as far as people like
Well,
conversations and
they have
memes.
gas masks and shovels, so what's not to
Yes.
like?
They bonk him with a shovel.
I think that with the signal that this was coming was the Deathcore kill team.
Yeah.
And that they're wanting to bring them out of Forge World and into plastic and into the new guard scale.
Okay. Well, I'm absolutely going to buy some. I think the models are cool, and
Yeah,
I like
I'm
that they're
excited
like.
for it.
I like that they're the most. Basically, for those that haven't read the previews, they're the most expensive and most buffed guard unit. So from the troops, you can have Cadian dudes or Catachan dudes, or Cadian, Catachan,
Deathcore.
Deathcore. I thought there was one more. There's not one more?
Do you think Carsicans? Because it's just like more Cadians.
They're just more Cadians. So, and each of those units does something different. So we talked about the fact that there aren't sub-factions. And instead,
you also just have a regular regiment infantry that is not Cadian or anything else.
Oh, right.
That's what you're thinking of.
Thank you.
That's the base.
Right.
Like, the guard squad that everyone knows and loves.
Yeah, yeah. So there's no custom factions. However, there are custom traits, and you pick the ones that you want, and they sound bonkers. Auto wounding on 6s is the one that we're probably going to see a lot in shooting.
Yep.
Auto wounding on 6s, and it counts as a 6 passed on to wounds.
Yep.
So that means
amazing.
That means snipers are amazing with that, for example, because
sniper rifles are often free.
It almost, I don't think the math is that it doubles, but it almost doubles your chances of getting a mortal wound on each shot, because you might get a 6 on the first hit and you might get a 6 on the second hit. Because you miss, the math isn't actually double, but I'm just trying to make a point.
Yeah.
So, and there's that one, and then there's like guys get out of transports after it moves.
Real quick, I want to let's roll back to the snipers. You're not including the fact that you can also easily make those units be re-rolling their hits, so you're doubling the chance to get 6s on the first go round. So you actually have 3 chances to get a 6 on those sniper rifles.
Yeah, I've been playing 16 sniper rifles with ballistic skill 2 in my Craft World Eldar army, and I think that people forget what a powerful thing snipers are. Yep. Because in so many books they're trash.
Yep.
And so
they've been garbage for so long.
But there are really fragile characters that simply cannot get shot. Like the big ones that I'm thinking about right now, there's 2 I'm thinking of, and they're both people Chuck is very familiar with, that I hate. The Foul Blight Spawn does not want to get shot with sniper rifles.
He's target priority 1.
He's 4 wounds, right?
I think it might be 5.
He might be 5.
Close to.
Yeah. And he has no mortal protection. So, and then the other one is the stupid dude that puts Transitman on the Terminators. He's fragile too, right?
Well, let's talk about Sisters characters. Let's talk about Eldar characters. Let's talk about anything T3, right? Any T3 character that's running around, you're like, that is a problem for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now, are the sniper rifles special weapons that I can just put in the squads too? Because the special weapons for the squads are free.
Yep.
Fascinating.
Just every squad. What I think is important about what Colin was talking about is those 2 models are linchpins for their whole plan. Like, you kill a random Sisters character for 1, she's just going to get back up. You're basically just shooting them in the CP, which I'm not saying is bad. That's an amazing thing to do.
It's only a 50% chance to get back up.
Yeah. Yeah, you just spend miracle dice to get wounds. Like, it's but it's, you're cutting their CP out, you're killing some miracle dice. Like, you're killing real resources. But those 2 are, my whole army is built around this person surviving. So now they have to hide that person, and if they don't, bye.
Yeah.
And I think that Ratlings forward deploy with their sniper rifles, and while they're fragile, they will absolutely serve a purpose. And then Lord, and we're not talking about this in the order I wanted to, but this is something I was thinking about as I was reading these previews. The Warlord trait that's the default on the guy that everybody's going to take is the redeploy one, right? Well, anyways, you could get the redeploy Warlord trait easily. It's easy to get the Warlord trait that lets you redeploy 3 things. And so you can do the Eldar trickery where you put the Ratlings out in the middle of the table and then pull them back or put them in deep strike if you're not going first and they're just going to die for free. And I think that's amazing, and it makes Ratlings incredibly valuable in my mind.
There's so much jank you can do with Ratlings. They get to move after overwatching.
Yep.
So someone charges you, you get movement, and you go, I'm going to overwatch you, and then I'm going to move forward and block you so you don't get to go where you want to go.
And that's hilarious, because they did that at the beginning of 8th edition, and it got errated away.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of jank, and then obviously you can do the opposite thing. Oh, now your charge is impossible. Cool. Have fun with that.
Right.
So their Ratlings are really cool, and I'm very excited about that. Bigger touching points, kind of going back to the broader things with the codex. Guard got rerolls, they got buffs, like in a way that they just never had before. That was
stacking buffs.
Yes, that was always the guard weakness, is they had very little synergy. Like outside of Scions, you just didn't have it. It was very hard to get anything going that way. You were really happy if you had reroll 1. Like that was your bread and butter. I would bring a Space Wolf character with a relic, be able to get reroll 1s to wound on one target for everyone within 12 inches. Like it was bad.
Or if you were really lucky and you worked the niche case just right, you could have +1 to hit. In just the specific situation that you could have +1 to hit in the 8th edition codex.
Yeah, it was.
Or if they were chaos, you had 4 rerolls to hit and wound.
Yeah. Reasonable. See, now we're getting back to reasonable.
Chuck. It cost 1 CP.
You got 12.
Yeah, right. I had 12, and remember that for a lot of the time we were playing guard, they were regenerating more CP than they were spending.
Oh, so good. The infinite CP battery.
Yes. So starting at the top, there's custom traits. They're very good. There's lots of them to choose from. I don't think that we'll only see auto wounding 6s.
There's getting out of transports after they've moved. Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't. Yeah, I'm excited about that. Oh.
Yeah, anything that does movement is usually better than we think it is at first blush. So
yeah, it's the only thing you have complete control of in the game. There's no almost no variability other than advancing, right? Like, orders. Let's talk about orders a little bit. They are auras as long as you are a pure guard army. That is what you lose if you mix and match, if you soup. You don't get the orders are just, they pick a dude and that unit gets that order.
I think the aura, the way you're describing it might be confusing to some people. So let me say it in a different way. When you put an order on a unit, if you're all guard, every unit within 6 inches that is eligible for that order will get the order as well.
Yes.
So when Mitch says it's an aura on the unit you're selecting. Yep. So if that unit is spread out, every guy in that unit will trigger at 6, because I think you give the unit an order, not a model of the order.
Yeah.
So you're basically, if you have a unit of 30 conscripts, which I don't even know if exist.
They don't exist anymore. I'm really upset about that.
So if you have a unit of 10 guardsmen that's spread out on the table and you order them, you could have a giant effect that gets all of your guardsmen if you plan it right.
Yeah. Yeah. And this also works for tanks.
Yeah, it does.
Tank orders are way better now, and there's more of them. It's really
there's a ton of infantry orders.
So there are 3 trees of orders. There's a tank tree, there is a commissar tree, and then there is an officer tree. So the commissar tree can order
Tankasar, commissar. Sorry, go ahead.
Ogrins, Bolgrin, Ratlings, stuff like that as well, I believe. So they're able. There's a little crossover there, and I know that Lord Solar can as well. He can order anything, including super heavies, which is nuts.
First rank, second rank turns your lasgun into heavy 3.
Yep.
There's an ability to give. Let's just
much
be
more
vague.
range there.
You can give plus to hit and AP with orders. You can still go fast with orders. I don't think shooting combat is an order anymore. I don't think fight twice is an order anymore. But in general, there's like 9 infantry orders. It seems like.
The plus 1 AP works in shooting and in combat, I believe.
The one I am most mad about. This is my biggest gripe so far looking through this stuff.
All right, let's do it.
The order that makes them into a 12-inch no deep strike bubble.
Oh my God, yes.
Oh yes.
And
Like-
it's an AOE, right? So you do it on one unit, and every unit around them gets it too.
Even
You
if it
can just
wasn't,
turn
you
it
just
on
pick
for the
2 units,
entire
you're done.
army.
Yeah, like you can't. Sorry, Gene Stealer Colts and Demons, your army is invalid.
Yep, I agree. I
And
thought
it's-
that same thing when I read it. I'm like, man, this review I'm reading is really blowing over how powerful that is.
Yeah, like the Space Marines have to buy a very specific unit for it. They have to,
And
tech
it's extra
into you.
points. Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is just I'm a guard player doing guard things. Oh, oops, I ruined your concept.
Yeah.
Well, and it's important to understand. So orders are like psychic powers. You pick which ones officers get, but the horse boy gets all of them for all the trees, everything.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that, so that does help a bit because that means it'll be less prevalent. But
Yeah, you have to have it
he-
in your battle plan.
but he'll be
but-
able to pick one unit that you put in a long line, and
Yep,
it'll hit
yep,
2 other units,
exactly,
and then like I won't be deep
exactly.
striking. So
Yeah.
it does take at least a little effort on your part.
Well, he has
But-
3 or 4 orders, so he's probably okay.
I think one thing is I think this army is going to be exceptionally hard to deep strike against anyways, because
Yeah.
I think everyone's going to have ratlings and everyone's going to have sentinels, and they're going to be spread out around the map. So I agree, though. It's being able to just say all of these people in the front of my deployment zone say you can't deep strike within 12 is a lot.
Right. You get to screen, and I don't even get to kill the screen.
Right. Yeah. It means Demons players have to start with more on the table,
Yeah.
which is not what they want.
Exactly
against
what the guard player wants them to do.
Oh, we missed something really important.
Hmm.
We should have talked about the data slate at the beginning of this. Just as a note,
Oh,
no,
yeah,
if
that's
anybody
gone.
tells you they know if the data slate is viable for the codex, they don't know.
I know.
GW
It's
has not
happening.
said. We are presuming that it is that as soon as the book comes out, they will errata the data slate to not have the guard buffs in it. I'm presuming that. I can't speak for Mitch and Chuck. I'm presuming that.
It has always been the way, and
Yeah.
it's obvious that is the way. Like,
New rules replace old rules is pretty standard practice. I don't think that's if GW specifically comes out and says no, those apply. We're going to let it ride. I'll be like, okay.
It's a big problem. It's a big problem.
Yeah,
because
it's your game to burn down, I guess, because it's not. But they should. Let's be clear. It should not. The
No, it
guard
should
book
not.
Does not need it.
the indirect penalty being ignored is not.
Yeah, no, that
is
has to go away.
clearly
Has to go away.
that is clearly not thought about in the new guard codex, because they give you a bunch of ways to give pluses to hit to your indirect.
Yeah.
So they're
Well, the-
planning on giving you a way to overcome that's different.
I
than the
want
data
to
sheet.
hit
That's
on
all.
that real quick for people who are very upset and stiffened when they heard a bunch of ways to get pluses to hit indirect. Specifically, there are specific units that if they are within a certain range and are able to get line of sight to the designated target, you can get a +1 to hit. You have a spotter. There is a spotting
Yep.
mechanic for the army, which is amazing. That is how artillery should work.
Yes.
Like I'm getting radios from my radio coordinates from my Voxcaster saying shoot here. He has eyes on the enemy.
And
That's
every unit
exactly
has
how
a
artillery
Voxcaster for
works.
free. Every unit has a Voxcaster
Yep.
for free. So you drive your Chimera up, the dudes jump out,
Yep.
they advance. I don't think they can advance. They walk
They don't move
forward.
anymore. They don't move at
No.
all.
Oh, they don't move at all. Okay,
No.
so
They
they
jump out
jump
and stop.
out, and they just have to be within 12 of the unit you want to
And
shoot with
see
your
it.
indirect.
And they have
And
to be
see
able
it.
to see it too.
Yeah.
So if you're actually out of line of sight, that you have guard has to sacrifice a unit to get line of sight.
Which I think is super cool.
Yeah, and that's how it should work.
Yeah, I think so too.
So
So
I
we
think it's
talked
a
about
totally nice balance for trying to make. If you want to make indirect work, add extra steps that make it a little bit harder, like the threshold to get the bonus is a little more. I think that's great.
So yeah, before I really want to spend time talking about units and combos. So just quickly, stratagems, they're way better, and there's not as many of them, but they're much higher quality. Is basically what everybody's saying. I think as we talk about other things, the stratagems will just naturally come up.
Yeah.
So we'll leave them alone for now. The psychic powers are all buffed versions of what Guard already did, it seems like to me. The 5-up invul on a unit thing that only Inquisitors had before now can be taken by Guard guys. I think it's Astra Pass that get to cast an action on the same turn, or is it Primary Psychers? One of them.
I didn't see.
Oh,
The new power, didn't they get a command point generation?
really? I didn't see that.
I think I saw that in there.
Okay.
And that's a significant benefit to
Yeah.
any army that has that.
Yeah, for sure. I think the standard -1 to hit is gone, which used to be
It's
called
trans hitman
Nitro.
instead.
Yeah, it's Trans Hitman instead, which is not bad.
Oh,
But
so
you
good.
can't put it on tanks,
Oh, okay.
so which is good because the tanks are T9 with a 2-up save,
Well,
and
some of
probably
them.
not armored contempt. Okay, so that's psychic powers. Let's talk about units. Starting with HQs, I think makes the most sense.
Sure.
First of all, just start every list with Lord Solaris or Solus or whatever his name is.
Pony Boy.
Yep.
Lord Adam Solus, is that his name? Oh,
No,
this is
I
not
don't
good.
think
I'm gonna
so.
have to close the door.
But actually, a conquistador version, and you call it Lord Adam Solus, would be really funny.
I like that he basically had a horse genetically printed so that he
Yeah.
could ride a horse into battle. Like, he's a quirky dude.
That guy has tastes.
Yeah.
He has opinions. I personally am looking forward to making an underwater version of him.
On a
A
seahorse?
seahorse, like a cyber
Yeah.
seahorse, I think is the
That'd be
right
great.
word.
Yeah.
Like with like some teeth. Yeah. But he is really good in combat. For a dude on a horse.
Yeah, for a guy. He's quite
I mean,
good for a
traditionally,
dude.
dudes on horses have done very well in combat.
This is true.
Like,
This is true.
I want to put him on a motorcycle. That's what I'm excited about because I think his horse looks dumb. I don't like it at all. It is very thick. If you're into thick horses,
I mean, like to support all that power armor, like it's got to be.
Yeah.
I would have liked the winged version of the Lord Solaris, I think, but I think it's actually a really cool, iconic model, and for the people who enjoy Space Napoleon, they're really gonna get to be Space Napoleon.
Yeah. So what are your other favorite HQs, Mitch?
Well, so that Creed is gone.
Yarrick is gone.
Yarrick is gone. Now we have Ursula Creed, Creed's daughter. And
Okay.
I think, and I don't know all of her rules off the top of my head yet, but she is also exceedingly good at orders and is almost an auto take and very, very good.
She's been in every list that I've seen so far.
Yeah, she's really, really good and very cheap, if I remember correctly.
80 points.
Yeah. But actually, my favorite thing is command squads. It's got to be command squads. Like, guys, Dawn of War command squads are back. Like, you can add a psyker, you can add a the officer of the fleet, you can add your master of ordnance, you can have 4 dudes with sniper rifles or plasma guns, you can have a medic like that can heal them, and they are all character protected. They are a little character blob moving around.
A very powerful thing in and of itself.
Oh,
having
so
like 3 models that are a character together, so you can string out to an objective but still be character blocked.
Not 3,
so powerful.
like 7.
Yeah, it's even better than
like ridiculous.
Stringing way out around a corner and touching an objective and being like, "This is ours," and you'll have to do close combat or come up into this space to fight.
Yeah.
Is the Ogren bodyguard gone?
No, he's there. You can put him in there too.
Okay, because he's like he's like an iconic Mitch icon for me because he is good. He's always been good, but Mitch was the first person that's like, I'm putting this guy in every list because even when I don't need the bodyguard, he's just gonna go whale on something.
Yeah, with the death mask of all in us, where he's like, oh, look at this, I have a 3-up invo for a turn.
Yeah, he was super dope. So that's pretty much, that's mostly HQs. There are commissars as well, and they have different orders as we talked about.
Tank commanders are probably the other thing to talk about. They're fine.
Yeah. We're going to talk about tanks here in a moment. So
since you're always taking the Lord Solar and he can order tanks and he can hide, it doesn't make sense to pay the extra points for a tank commander to make your orders now a targetable, vulnerable unit.
Does it give you ballistic skill still?
Yeah.
Okay.
But your Lord Solar can be buffing everything. It's the points are you can get enough value out of a normal Lehman Rust now because of the turret rule where you get +1 to hit. So your normal Lehman Rust is hit on 3s, re-rolling. Your commanders hit on 2s, re-rolling. Yes, that is better. But is it worth the extra 40 points or whatever? And now my orders I'm counting on the order from this guy, and he's vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense to me. So infantry, we talked about a bit, but they do get free special weapons Our
Yes,
heavy
this
weapons?
is very Death Guard style.
Yeah. So that's
Pointing.
cool. What are your favorite special weapons? Have you seen them yet, Mitch?
I mean, I'm always a fan of sniper rifles. I love me some sniper rifle spam.
It sounds like plasma is really hot in the book too.
How many
Plasma's great.
weapons do you put in there?
It depends on, so different squads have different things. So your basic squad can take like a heavy weapons squad, or a heavy weapons
And one special.
base. Yeah, special weapons team, or heavy weapons team. Sorry, too many things going on in my head right now. So they can take that, and I think it's 2 special weapons, and then you can get like a plasma pistol on your sergeant, all the normal upgrades that come in the box. But then you go to like the Cadians, they can't take the heavy weapons team, but I believe they can take 1 or 2 more extra special weapons.
I think they get 2 instead of 1 is what it is.
2
I
instead
don't
of
think
1.
it's as many as you're saying. But
Yeah, it's whatever it's whatever the number was. Just when they subtract the heavy weapons team, they add 1 other heavy weapon. Catachans get the same thing. It's for flamers as well with them. And then
one of the custom traits is shoot your heavy weapons after moving without penalty.
Yeah.
So you can have those heavy weapon teams jump out of a chimera and shoot without penalty, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. And then you have the Death Corps, which just get like everything.
Yeah. They get baby transhuman, which I've never really valued, but people promise me is good.
It is.
Okay.
It is on T3, like T-shirt saves.
I think it's okay, but you don't have the no rerolls part of it. So it's going to be less of an impactful thing.
Well, we do on 1 unit with a psychic power.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is your basic infantry squad. It's the thing you want to spam out. Like most lists I've heard discussed are like 6 of them. So it's a lot of plasma because they can take 2 plasma guns. I don't know if they can get the mole launcher or not. I don't know if that's an option in this kit.
Okay.
If they can get the mole launcher, that used to be really cool because it's an indirect, but it goes underground.
Does it shoot small furry creatures at them?
Mm-hmm.
No, actually,
that's the
gives them
launcher.
really, really concerning irregular moles that they have to get checked out.
Yeah, the triple catapult, as it's called. All right, so the other thing about infantry is that Tempesta Scions, excuse me, are elites now, unless you have a full detachment of them, which I think you will.
You want to, yeah.
Yes, you want to, and then they deep strike and blow people up, but they have much longer range than they had before. Their guns are 24 inches as opposed to.
So this is such a special moment. The pain of having a gun that is rapid fire within 9 inches and having to deep strike out exactly 9 inches all the time. All the time.
You've taken that pain and channeled it into an order and given it back to your opponents.
Yes.
Nice flamers you got there.
Yeah.
It'd be a shame if you had to land more than 12 inches away.
Yeah.
You know what I thought was really cool about Scions is I noticed that the only plane we have is the Valkyrie.
Yep.
Sorry, Vulture. I guess the Vulture's Forge World anyway.
Yeah, it's still there.
Yeah.
We have a bunch of planes in Forge World. They just all suck.
Okay, so the Valkyries can drop people while they're moving, which is cool. They've done that for a while, but they have to drop people 9 inches away. They can drop Scions 6 inches away.
Yeah,
which I think is a super neat little thing for them to put in there. That the paratroop unit is better at jumping out of the airplane than the people that are not paratroop units.
I wish they would come out with plastic Elysiums. That would be the only thing that could make this like release more hype for me.
Yeah.
I want my Starship Trooper.
I imagine when you dump the Bullgren out of the Valkyrie that they just roll on the ground.
I like to think they use the shields as parachutes, thinking it'll help, and it just doesn't.
Yeah,
you should be able to put them into close combat and deal mortal wounds. Just like drop them on the thing you want to kill.
Heavy lift.
I think elites are next. We talked about the psychers a little bit enough. You're going to take some. Good job.
Isn't I believe the historically worst unit in the game, the
Weird Veins?
The Weird Vein Psychers now have the character keyword.
Okay.
So they are not, I think. I haven't seen the book yet.
I thought you were going to start talking about Hydras when you said the worst unit in the game.
No. Hydras is both of those made it into my worst guard list.
Okay.
But the
Hydra never killed any of your own models.
Yeah. The Weird Vein he can't even perils. it only rolls 1 dice. Like,
so
it's horrible.
I want to talk about Bulgrin because I expected Bulgrin to be in the penalty box with the Shadow Sword, which I've heard from many friends is like one of the worst super heavies now.
It's hilarious.
Okay, great. We'll talk.
Do you want to do like 24 damage in a shot?
I do actually.
Yeah,
you know that I do.
It's significantly better than 23.
So Bulgrins are more durable, they punch harder, and they're 35 points a bottle. I think that is very solid. So that's exciting.
Big problem though.
What's that?
Squad size went down to 6.
Okay.
You get less value from your buffs, but I think your buffs are a lot better. So
yeah.
No,
and by 6 you mean 5.
Yeah, it'll be a 5.
Yeah.
D3 blast is so stupid that you just have to.
It's getting worse.
Yes. It's true. So Bulgrin are cool. Ogrin their gun has been buffed. I don't know that that's going to matter to us.
It will not.
Okay, fair enough. We've talked about how cool Ratlings are.
They are amazing.
What elites are we forgetting? Oh, Rough Riders are probably fast attack. They're not elites.
They are fast attack.
Talk about. It's time for you to do your monologue on Karskins.
So I don't actually know the names of all the strats right now because it's just all too fresh. But the basic idea is that you are able to stack. So you can make them reroll to hit and wound from Lord Solar. You're then going to have them hit auto wound instead of on 6s on 5s. And then you are going to give them an order that multiplies the number of shots they put out, or each. It's that, or it's each hit is 2 hits. I can't remember which. No, it's the multiply of the shots. Anyway, and basically, and then you're going to make all 6s to wound, which, by the way, your 5s and 6s to hit count as 6s to wound, mortal wounds on top of the normal wound, I do believe. And you can do. It's a maximum of 6 per unit that you shoot. So the math that I'm hearing that is about 3 units, or you can shoot about 3 units and do 6 mortals consistently. So that's an 18 mortal wound output.
And that unit can get out of the Chimera after it moves,
or drop out of a Valkyrie.
There is a thing that, by the way, there is a thing to let you do orders after the order guy gets out.
Yep.
Right.
But
you can't get Lord Solas as rerolls, right?
True. Fair.
So it goes down quite a bit if you use a transport option.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
But it makes them just an incredible. It makes them an incredibly powerful elite unit that's very cheap, and it's cool because the Karsikins are supposed to be like super badasses. They are the elite of Cadia, right? Like,
and then they'll just die. And that's
what's the range on their guns that are doing that?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a reasonably difficult thing. If your opponent is well aware and experienced with that, they will work you on it. But then you don't have to spend all your strats. You're just hanging out.
It's also not I think it's a 100-point unit, so it's not like it's a big investment.
Yeah. It's the kind of thing where you put this out, you put it sort of forward, and you're like, yeah, come on, let's do this. Yeah, I will pop this if you give me the chance.
Right. Yeah, they're 100 points for 10 of them with 2 hotshot volley guns, 2 plasma guns, 1 sniper rifle.
Yeah. No, that's hotshot volley guns. Like that's just quality shots on. I mean, the plasma too, but like this is so many quality shots. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's super cool. So let's talk about fast. I'm sure we're not talking about every data sheet, but we're also not reading the book to you.
No.
Fast attacks. Horses are fragile, hit hard, and are cool. Will you be able to hide them on any table? I have no idea. How's that?
What size is their base? Do we know?
I'm going to assume it's like the new oval bike base.
There's like 3 of them. And they get significantly bigger.
Yeah.
If it is like the AdMech horses, that's the small one, and that one easy to hide.
Yeah.
You get into the next level one, it gets much harder.
Yeah. I hope it's AdMech. I find it hard to believe that they would be bigger than AdMech horses.
Yeah.
Like proportionally.
GW, why are there 3 mounted bases that are different sizes? Okay, sorry.
No.
Well, have you seen that
round one for Thunderwolf Cav?
I want to talk about Sentinels. That's what I want to talk about. They come in a squadron. They're cheaper than they were before, which is hilarious because they were
1 to 3 still.
Yeah.
Okay.
They are core,
Maybe 1 to 6.
so that you can put they're core, so you can put all the buffs on them.
Mhm.
They should not be 1 to 6. They pregame move. They can have reasonable guns. You can give them a saw if you want them to punch, but you don't want to do that.
It looks cool.
They can spot. They can do the spotter thing.
Yep.
Yeah, there's just a lot. Then they're cheaper than they were before, and they were already so cheap that I was taking them as people to just do as things to just do something.
Mhm.
So I'm
Do
really
they still get the
interested.
pregame move too?
Yeah, they do.
Scout ones do. You
They-
also
some are required.
you also can make them count for 3 models.
Yep.
And then you can there is an order to make them OBSEC. So there
Yep.
is
Yeah.
there is a lot of options out there.
And I think that Sentinels are an important part of the fluff for me. When I imagine a guard army, you would have things that are lighter weight recon units.
Yeah. And
we got to a point where we just simply weren't taking them. And so I really like, and I also own like 12 Sentinels, so I'm all in on this. I'm really excited to see if they serve a really valuable purpose, because like they remind me a lot of Warwalkers from Eldar, only cheaper. And what Warwalkers do is that they deploy, neutral deploy, and then they get an angle on you and shoot a bunch of shuriken cannons at you. Obviously, this isn't going to shoot like that. However, it is core and can have a lot of buffs on it. But the idea of a fast-moving unit that can pregame move means that they can get angles on things that you don't want to have shot on the first turn. And that's a real interesting thing to force people to deploy even more conservatively. I've had games where I was defending against that, and I simply deployed my army too far back and had a hard time participating. So there's a lot of nuance there about this is the tools the guard player has. This is how I'm deploying. Do I do super conservative? Do I do more aggressive and risk losing things on the first turn? There's a lot of that just having a pregame unit that can take buffs and has. I've been told plasma guns or what heavy plasma cannons is what they'll have.
That makes sense. Blast.
Yeah. So, so Sentinels.
Sentinels are cool.
A scout Sentinel with a plasma cannon, which is I think D3 something. A Sentinel with a plasma cannon is 40 points.
Yeah. Could see you easily maxing that if you wanted.
Yeah. No, it's really cool. Let's talk about Hellhounds.
Okay.
So they got buffed. The new turret rule applies to them, which is a really big deal because it means that you can shoot out of combat. You can't shut down a Hellhound anymore. And the Melta version, the Devil Dog, I believe, gets +1 to hit on that Melta gun up top. So you can do the reverse Hellhound, which has always been one of my favorites, where you put the Melta gun on top and the heavy flamer on the front. And yeah, it's got a flamer, and that's cool for knocking things off in combat. But that Melta gun can still shoot. Like you can't shut it down by touching.
You're actually kind of happy being in combat.
Yeah,
because you're flaming the thing you're in combat with. You're wearing it away, but then you're safe while you shoot your Melta somewhere.
Yeah, I can't be shot.
Yeah. And that turret rule also extends to Russes, which we're going to talk about here.
Yeah. It's huge.
Let's talk about Russes now.
I'm not done with Hellhounds.
Okay, sorry. Talk about Hellhounds.
So the other part of it is Hellhounds stayed really cheap, and they still come in squadrons, and you can mix those squadrons. Okay. So I think that they fill a very interesting role in Guard, because Guard have tons of long range shooting and tons of volume shooting up close. But this fills the auto hit and I need to get really heavy damage through, and it needs to be a sacrificial unit because you don't want to sacrifice your Russes. But this can go and blow up fine. Cool, have fun.
When it comes in a squadron of 3, do they split or do they stay?
They split.
They split. Interesting.
Which is actually good because it's good for your opponent. Because the way the orders work is if I could order 3 Hellhounds in a unit and all the vehicles within 6 of all 3 Hellhounds got it, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be, it's also just from playing with the Orc buggies, it's actually very difficult to maneuver. Those vehicle squadrons, and so those Hellhounds will be much more usable that way.
Well, Hellhounds are much bigger than buggies too, so it's even harder. Maybe the buggy base is pretty big, actually. I might be wrong there.
They're very useful for blocking line of sight. They're very useful for controlling movement. They are not afraid to get touched in combat. Like they're a really cool toolboxy unit. I'm not saying take 9 of them, but I certainly can see using 3 of them in an army.
I think the Goonhammer makes an excellent argument against them, which is that Leman Russes are only 50% more points.
Oh, I know. I specifically called out that you use these in situations you don't want Russes because Russes don't want to die.
Yeah. So did we forget any fast attacks? Probably. All right, moving on to heavy support. I don't think we need to talk about the artillery. We could talk about Death Strike, but Mana Cores and Basilisks are similar to what they did before, less accurate because of indirect. You can give them a +1 to hit if there's a spotter. Mana Cores seem better than Basilisks. We'll know more as we get on the table. Mitch, why don't you explain what the Death Strike does?
Sure. So you'll have one of 3 different missiles. I'm not sure if you get to pick each time before game or if you have to.
The GW said article you get to pick at the beginning of the battle round. So you at the beginning of the game you say this is the missile I'm using. Okay. So you can tailor it.
Great.
I'm absolutely going to model little dudes on it that are changing the missile out every turn. I think that's just.
So you have when your Death Strike is present on the table, you take a Death Strike token and you place it somewhere on the board. So that's an action. Next turn, you have 2 options with that token. You can either fire your missile, and anything within a certain radius, depending on the missile you have, we'll go over those radiuses in a moment. You roll a dice, and a certain number of mortal wounds is done. These now the other
Mitch,
thing,
you have to say what those mortal wound
I'm getting
totals
there.
are.
I'm getting there. That's distracting from the mechanic. Okay. Now the other thing you can do with this marker is you can move it to another place. You can move it around. So it's not like pick a point and then it has to fire there. You can chase someone around the board with this, and that's a really important thing to understand about what the Death Strike actually does. So now we're going to get into the radiuses, which I don't have memorized, but the smallest one is 6, and that one I do have memorized because it's pretty impressive.
3-inch radius, 6-inch diameter.
Oh, 6-inch diameter. Sorry, I'm thinking diameters. So the 3-inch radius is on a 1, it does nothing. On a 2 or a 3, it does 8 mortal wounds. On a 4 or a 5, it does 12 mortal wounds. And on a 6, it does 18 mortal wounds.
To every unit under it, right?
No, you roll for each unit individually.
Right.
Yes.
How big is the marker?
You measure from the center of the marker, so it does not matter.
Oh, okay. So you don't cover an objective with this one?
You do not cover an objective with the smallest one. The next one up, I believe, is what is it? It ends up being a 9-inch diameter, I believe. Okay. So that one, and that's the plasma missile, and that one's more in the range of your 4, 5, 6 mortal wound kind of thing. It'll really mess up some infantry squads, but it's not going to kill a Terminator brick. And then your last one is a vortex missile, and so that one is a smaller radius again, but it has a chance to stay around it. And so if you put that on an objective, you could just be like, there's just a floating mortal wound cloud that just lives here now, and it could move towards you.
So if I have a marker out, and my own unit is within range of my marker, does it get hit?
Yes.
So if you could gum somebody up in combat, you're like, okay, and then boom.
And then blow up your own unit so you can then shoot at them?
No.
Yeah.
Or, do 16 mortal wounds to the target.
It's important to understand that this Death Strike thing is an action, not a gun. Yeah. And so, not like a lot of defensive stuff just doesn't work.
Yeah, it's not an attack.
Yeah, you're not being attacked. And it also means that characters can just blow up. So
it is the nuclear option.
Yeah.
I often think you will make choices of if I'm going to averagely do 4 mortal wounds with the plasma larger one, and does 4 mortal wounds kill your characters? Well, then I'm going to take it, and I'm going to force your characters to run away from it constantly. Whereas if the cast base runs with 5, and you're like, I'm not likely to get it, then
So
I'll do a different thing.
let's add a layer to what Chuck just said there. So we're going to use this Death Strike plasma to chase around characters, and we're going to have a guard army with a lot of snipers that auto 6 mortal wound. So you're gonna make it so that, well, if you hide, I blow you up. If you step out, I kill you.
Right.
Take your pick. I hope
if you're able to find another hiding spot, well then fine. I'll move my laser over there.
Yeah.
But the
Sound the alarm
reality is
again.
that so many armies deploy in a big ball behind a wall.
Yep.
And making them move out from their wall. Also, just making people move off their home objective is a really big deal.
Yep.
And making people's indirect fire move away is also like, you took, D cannons. Well, they better move. And by the way, D cannons move 6 and can't move through walls.
And they have how many wounds each?
5.
Oh, see, that's special.
Yeah.
But also, like things like you look at the Chaos Terminator blob, you know it's going to move 6 plus D6 forward on that first turn. So if you put that marker down in that space, like go around it or accept this penalty.
Yeah.
They can't accept the penalty, so that's a massive impact.
I think you want one. I think you want one.
Yeah, I think one.
I think it's literally like
three.
Biovores. I think it's literally like Biovores for the Tyranids.
Yeah.
Like you want it because there's so much utility from it, but you don't want to go too deep into it in case you play a matchup where it's not good.
Yeah. I think if you had 3, it creates a whole lot of really interesting things of like, I go first and I just line these up along your front of your opponent. So if you come at me.
And 150.
But they're also going to cost you CP at that point because you're taking Russes, right? So you're going to need another detachment if you do
but
that.
Russes come in squadrons.
Yeah, you can just take a squadron of Russes.
So do Death Strikes, actually.
Oh,
no, they don't.
Okay.
Death Strike do not come in squadrons.
Oh, the review I read said that everything but Super Heavies comes in squadrons.
No, the Death Strikes never come in a squadron. It's always been a special exception. I would be shocked if that changed.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
But yeah, so maybe 2, but like I think 1 is definitely your sweet spot for actual like non-beaming type of play where it's like this is actually going to disrupt my opponent in interesting ways.
So let's talk about the tanks in least chonk to most chonk. Least chonk would be the Russes. We've already and you covered. Oh, okay. Talk about Toroxes then.
They're very cheap and they're very useful utility now.
A million shots, I'd be a 3.
No. Toroxes, not Torox Primes.
Oh, sorry.
Toroxes. Torox Primes are more expensive. The Toroxes are now have a role and with the ability to get out of transports and stuff. There's the mechanized kind of thing. It feels like they finally found a job in the Guard Army because they've always existed as an alternate kit to what was just the Scions transport.
I think that's an actual army. It's the mechanized infantry plus Toroxes. Just could go.
Yep. Yeah. So from there we have Torox Primes. Nothing, like Colin said, nothing really to note there. They're still good. And
they do what they say on the box.
Mini shots.
Yep.
Go.
Yeah. And then Chimeras.
Yep.
Chimeras are great. I think that they're like they're very utilitarian. They got slightly like buffed in durability, I believe. And they didn't need a lot. They just needed like the ability to be buffed and to have some rules that interacted with them.
Yeah.
But yes, now we can go on to the larger tanks. In Fort
and
World, no,
when I stepped away because of dog aggro, did you cover what the turret rule does?
Yeah.
Yes, we did. Okay. The turret rule is the +1 to hit for that main gun, and then it lets you shoot out of combat, but you don't get the +1.
We also covered the Hellhounds, so that kind of brings us to our indirect fire guys.
Yeah. No. We have to talk about the tanks in chonk order.
Yeah, indirect's next.
Okay. We already talked about indirect. So okay.
Oh, you did kind of hit on it. I would say the only other thing to hit on there is the new indirect gun. A lot of people were worried about it. The one that's coming in the box, the field gun. It only comes in squads of 2. So the 2 most worrisome scenarios for that unit was being able to take 3 individual ones that you could hide around the board and you would never be able to interact with them and they can just shoot. Or taking windmill slamming 9 of them down, and it's just a really unfun experience for your opponent if they have elite infantry. Neither of those extremes are really possible. The bases are pretty big, and they're only in squadrons of 2, so they're not the easiest thing to hide, and they're priced kind of like a basilisk. And I think that's great. That's about what they should be.
They also look really cool.
They are really cool.
I'm gonna definitely be stealing some of those pieces for some works or something.
Yeah, they're cool. Russ's?
Yes.
Okay. 155 points, I believe, gets you a las cannon on the hull, a turret, and 2 heavy bolter sponsons.
And a T8 and a 2-up save.
Yeah, T8
How many
with
wounds?
a 2-up save. I don't know.
I believe it's still 12.
12?
Yeah.
That's a wonderful vehicle.
Yes.
That's a lot to kill. It's not giving up a lot
We
of the
didn't
game.
talk about the turret gun. Which gun do you take?
There's like 8 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which one? So
Wait, is it Lehman Russ and then you pick a turret gun, or is it a bunch of different options?
It's Lehman Russ and you pick a turret gun.
Okay.
It's one data sheet now rather
Hooray.
than 9.
So there will only be 9 Russes.
One of
12.
them does ignore invols at high AP, like the Tau Railgun.
Yep, they got the Tau Railgun.
And that's really interesting to me because I hate that gun, so playing with it probably feels good.
Yeah. When it does, yes.
Yeah.
Terminator bricks are sad.
So going up in chunk, we have the new tank, which is like roughly Land Raider sized.
Yeah, a little smaller than the Land Raider, I would think. Just a little less wide.
Not from the pictures I have seen.
Oh, okay.
Maybe. Who knows? That thing is dope. It's T9 with a 2-up save and 18 wounds.
17 wounds.
17.
Oh,
very important.
17 wounds.
The best wounds.
Hey, people worked hard on that 17 wounds. 17.
They shoot like crazy, and you can get 3 of them for 1,150 points, which I believe is an important metric to know.
That's a lot, though.
It is a lot.
They are an interesting midpoint between a knight and a Lehman Russ, right? Like in the game right now, like that it is such a vehicles are like you either have super heavy vehicles or you have like a vehicle data sheet spam, but vehicles otherwise are not they die so easily. You don't have high point vehicles on the field very often. So
I think you could take 2 HQs, 3 units of guardsmen, 3 Russes, and 3 of the big tanks, and I don't think that's a bad list.
No, I think it's going to be really fun.
Yeah, it's not what I'll probably play, but it sounds neat. Okay, and then the super heavies are also T9 with a 2-up save, which is nice. And they do a bunch of different stuff, and they're still cool. They don't.
You are the one that does a ton of damage with a ton of shots that ignores cover. Storm, hammer.
There's several ways in the book to ignore cover, which was fun to see on an army that
it just
doesn't have AP.
So
I suspect it's going to be mostly Robodorn. It's going to be the Dorns. Like that's the tank to be seen, I think.
I think that I think Russ's with the railgun, is just like you're going to see 3 of those. Like, why would you not have that?
And you still have a las cannon and 2 heavy bolters, even if the railgun's not super useful.
And it's not like you can be touched and not shoot.
But you can also, like, if it's not useful, give it OBSEC and fling it.
Right.
Like, there's multiple job.
Yeah, but it's rare that the railgun there's not something you want to be like, oh, I'd like that to not exist anymore.
Right. I think that's everything.
Valkyries we kind of touched on.
I don't know what their points are, which is all that matters to me about them.
Yeah, I think
because they're so
high. They're probably
Hydras.
coming in around 1.
Hydras.
Oh yeah, they're fine.
Oh, 2 of the reviews I read this morning both said that they're inexpensive and good even if you're not shooting into aircraft. And the fact that there's so many armies that rely on fragile aircraft makes probably a Hydra a good take.
I mean, they're fine. Like, it's an autocannon. Like, it's the problem of that's still strength 7 AP 1/2 damage. There's a lot of things that just go cool, neat.
Well, that's really good against Tau planes.
Yeah, you get 8 shots if you're not shooting at aircraft, and then I don't know. I believe they have the turret rule, so you'll be hitting on 3s, but that might go back down because it's not an aircraft. Anyway, aircraft you get 16 shots, so that's cool. Like that. That feels like the Hydra should be good at killing aircraft and like giving it just twice as many shots. Certainly is an approach to do that. I would have liked to have seen an additional AP like the Armigers got for their autocannons. That made them a lot more relevant. I mean, the 3 damage obviously is more relevant too, but 1 extra AP would have done a lot for the Hydra. I think the Hydra is absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with like experimenting with them, but they're not particularly easy to hide. They're not like you're falling right into the same Lehman Russ trap. Just get a Lehman Russ at that point. Unless planes are your real issue. But if planes are your real issue, like I also am really happy to just shoot them with a Tau railgun. Like that seems pretty good.
I think that's the really key is like how do planes become your issue with guard? You have enough bodies to block them out from landing where you don't want them to be, and your shooting can take care of them. You don't need a solution. You are a solution already. You put this into like chaos, they'd be like, yes, we could take that. We would love to kill a plane without having to have dedicated flying units to do it.
Right. Okay, so let's do some final takeaways. Chuck, you're not the guard player. What do you think?
Mostly, I'm very concerned about the order I talked about. I'm currently playing demons, and that's just like a free, unstoppable button where you're just like, no, you have to play your game entirely different. So I need to see what that feels like because that scares me.
Okay.
Other than that, I look at the rest of it and I'm like, yeah, this is the flavor is like right on. I feel like they did a really good job of bringing Astra Militarum to life here. Beyond that, I don't know. Like I have to see what it feels like on the table. It's hard for me to look at what we have now and think like how powerful will this be, and that's the next determiner on whether I think it's a good addition to the meta or not.
So we'll play next weekend then.
Maybe.
Okay.
I think a big takeaway here that something we didn't talk about is how the quality of shots and the number of shots profiles for guns have changed in the guard book. A lot of guns are different. They have really, really played with the stats of the weapons. So like there's a lot more 6 plus D3 or 3 plus D6 as opposed to just 2D6 and the highest, or there's a
slowly
lot
removing the D6 shots that do D6 damage, and you're just like, okay, I don't even know what's going to come out of this thing.
a lot less orky lotto machine mechanics.
Yeah.
So that's something that's really cool, and that consistency is going to make them perform a lot better. I think that they are certainly. It's very possible they could be S tier. I think they're definitely A tier without issue, without a question.
Mm-hmm. We'll have to see how the build stuff work. I particularly just want to see I would love to see 10 guard lists and just understand how much they get to bring with them. Right, like we start seeing people bringing out to tournaments. It's going to be pretty great.
Yeah, I'm thinking. So I think that the fluff is here for me. I think the fact that I get to have close combat and I get to shoot turrets out of close combat makes me a lot more interested in guard. My big frustration with guard was sometimes an army would just touch you and then you'd be done. Yeah. And I don't like that. I find it very frustrating. I also don't think that guard were nuanced enough for me before. I think there's a lot of tricks and jank now, which is very appealing to me. I don't like, and this is something I've been thinking really hard how to word. And I came up with 2 days ago talking to a friend, I came up with how I want to say this. I don't like if at the beginning of let me say it differently. I don't like if on your turn, you know what I'm doing on my turn. I'm not interested in that. I want to have enough options and enough tools that I can surprise you with my response to you rather than you saying, I'm going to do this because I know Colin then has to do this. Because I think that makes the game a lot less strategic. And I'm not going to win by remembering rules you don't remember. I'm not going to win because I have 200 reps with my army. I'm going to win because I'm going to think of strategies that you didn't think about with my army. So I think they've done that. I think there's a lot of tricks in here and a lot of my favorite stuff like Scions, Russes, Hellhounds, Bulgrin, Ogrin. A lot of my favorite things are probably playable, and Ratlings, and that's really exciting. So I'm super hype. I will try as soon as I have points, which I don't have right now. I will play a bit rep and do commentary on it, and I'll get it up. Maybe if Mitch can find it in his schedule, maybe I'll do commentary with Mitch on the guard game that I play because that'd be really fun. So that's my thoughts. did you get to share all of your thoughts, Mitch? Your final thoughts?
So
I don't
Never.
That's never like yeah. There's no final thoughts. There are closing thoughts for now.
Okay. Closing thoughts
yeah.
from Mitch.
Closing
Mr. Imperium,
thoughts
as we've started calling him.
like closing thoughts are just like I said before. I think that they nailed the flavor. It's going to be really. There's a lot of different like people are talking about not just one unit. It's not, hey, 30 Rough Riders plus this and
Right.
this is just it. There's a lot of different ways you can run this army that are going to play extremely differently. And that's cool. That makes Guard feel flavorful. Not in like, oh, I have X special rule, but in, oh, I'm playing in an entirely different manner. This is a mechanized infantry. This is a tank squadron. This is like I feel like you can really build all those different things. And that's awesome. And I'm really excited for it. And I can't wait to see what all the Guard players put out there and how many of them try to make the Hydra work.
I'm also like, I love that those ways of describing the army are so impactful. Like if I tell you I'm playing the mechanized Guard, you start to already have an idea of the kinds of things I'll be bringing, and then you're just interested in the nuanced choices I made from there. But like I can tell you pretty quickly the kind of army that I have here, and you can kind of understand a bulk of information to start with. I think that makes the game a lot more fun to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. I like
also, taking away conscripts was bullshit.
Okay. Not as bullshit as taking Yarok away.
No, not as bullshit as that, but it's right up there. I'm real upset. It makes me sad.
I'm really concerned that the next LR Codex is going to have Mechanized Eldrad, and I'm going to have to quit 40k. So, like, if Yarok and Eldrad are gone within a year of each other, man, I don't know if I'll be able to recover from that. I'll never financially recover from this. That's something else.
I'll never emotionally recover from this.
Yeah, I'll never emotionally recover from this. All right, guys, I think we've talked about Guard. I think we did a good job. Yeah. I can't think of anything else we need to cover on this. So we will get games in, and then we'll talk about them more, because they're absolutely an army that's going to get played. I think that we're pretty much wrapped up. We'll be back in a few weeks. This week, you can find This Week in 40K on Tuesday, 40K Frontiers on Thursday, and the TNG guys are at a cash prize tournament today, which is pretty fun.
Oh, yeah.
And they're going to be with Danny's there too, by the way, for those that are Danny fans. The TNG guys will be back for BIFPOD TNG on Saturday. This show doesn't come next week because we're every other week. But that's what's going on this week. Go check out the Las Vegas team's tournament coverage on our YouTube. Go to our store and look at the merchandise that we have. The coffee mugs are particularly cool. There's a big one you can get if you're a fan of big coffee mugs. Thank you, everyone. Mitch, Chuck, and Colin signing out. We'll be back soon. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We really appreciate you. Bye now.
See you later.
Bye.